What's up YouTube? So I am super stoked to announce my official phase plant content bank, Astral Beings. So in this video, I want to show you a couple of the sounds. I want to show you how I generally use them in context. And I also want to show you a couple of special things about, how I've created the sounds, how you can piece them apart to kind of add your own spice and, add them into several different contexts. So anyway, let's dive in and have a look. So first things first, the most important thing about a Psytrance track is arguably the kick and the bass. So I spent quite some time crafting what I think are the perfect kind of basis to start crafting your own kick and bass from using phase plant. And I want to show you a couple of things about how I've created this preset. So the pack has a kick preset and 4 bass presets to get you started. So here I want to show you something interesting about the kick preset is you can actually get quite a lot of control and quite a lot of different sort of contexts out of a single preset. First and foremost, you can obviously, because it's a preset, you can pitch it to the key of your track, so you can always get that kind of perfect phase relationship between your kick and your bass. So let's say, for example, you wanted to shift the phase or something of your kick. I've given you the ability to do so with the macro over here, this phase offset. And as you can see, I actually had it tweaked a little bit. And what this does is it actually sets the phase of both of these oscillators. As you can see here, this preset is actually made up of 2 oscillators, one that's creating the transient and one that's creating the fundamental or the body of the sound. So something interesting, just a side note, what you can actually do is set this harmonic to 0 and then actually set the exact frequency that you want the transient of the kick to be. Again, like say, for example, you want a specific transient and then the body to be in kind of pitch with the track. You can do these interesting things here. And that's why I've created it using these layers, is so that you can do things like this. I've also given you the ability with the macro to create a different frequency at the top of the transient. Check this out. So this actually gives you quite a lot of control to like various different like styles of kick drum, especially in this last kind of like 20%. This can vary from like a GOA style kick all the way to kind of like a modern clicky kick drum. So I like it around 97% or so. I think that's kind of like a nice midway point. Cool, that sounds great. I'm going to render this out and show you a couple of other presets in the pack. Okay, so the bass in this example is BS Bass 4. I want to show you something cool about this bass is that it's kind of split into 2 layers. So we have the saw layers, which is like the top layers of the bass missing the lowest fundamental sine wave. And then we have the lowest fundamental sine wave on a separate layer. So this gives you the ability to boost like the subs if you do need like extra subs in a sound, or if you want to reduce the subs in a sound or something like that. And this preset also has a little bit of sidechain kind of pre-baked in. So I want to show you what I mean by this. So let's say, for example, we want to add a little bit more sub to the sound. Then we could just boost the gain of this layer. Check this out. Or vice versa, we could remove some sub and then maybe like boost the volume of the channel overall to kind of get more sort of mid-range body of the sound. Cool, so there's quite a bit of tonal control that you get from just a single kind of bass sound. So most of them are designed around a similar kind of idea. Maybe not all of them are layers, but you get the picture. So I'm going to render this and show you some of the lead sounds in the pack. So one of my favorite leads in this pack is LD Filter FM. So this is kind of designed to be like an old school ravey stab lead sound. Think like old school Prodigy, you know, those old school kind of electro ravey kind of tracks. So yeah, this is the sound. And then this is how I've used it in context. You know, I like to do this kind of thing with just like quick stabby kind of things, you know, like at the beginning of a bar and then like a glide or something like that. So another favorite sound of mine in this pack is the SEQ acid lead. So I use this kind of differently in this context, but I just want to show you, you know, the kind of like versatility that I could try to create with a lot of these sounds, because there's, you know, obviously only 50 sounds here. I try to create it so that like you can get as much out of each sound as possible. So this is a sequence, yes, but you can kind of just disable a few things to create more of just a lead sound now. So for example, let me just show you what the preset sounds like, you know, default. But then in context, what I did is I actually just disabled a bunch of these LFOs, changed a little bit of modulations here and there. But here what I did is I actually just wrote more of a melodic sequence for this acid lead. So in context, it was this. Okay, my next favorite sound in the pack is pad choir gated. So this is that classic kind of Goa trance gated female vocal sound that I try to create with this patch. So yeah, this is the basic sound, and then I'm going to try work it into this context that we have. So it's nice to use, you know, as like a kind of just a kind of background kind of gated sound, or to even use as a melodic sound, as you heard here. You can always remove these gates if you want more of a kind of flat sound. But I find the gates really give it that classic Goa sound. So with this preset, there's a couple of variations you can do. The synth layer, you can kind of add in a bit of a resonator effect. It's got a bit of a high pass as well. But I tried to retain as much of a kind of natural tone with this one as possible, of that kind of like classic vocal sound. So I didn't want to put too much kind of crazy modulation and that kind of things with the macros. You know, for those Psytrance fans, I'm sure you know the sound, and, you know, just as is, it's a nice little you know, a nice little addition to any kind of like space where, you know, say for example in an intro or something where you just need a little bit of extra kind of something to fill up a space. Having something like this just at the ready is really a nice tool. Okay, my next favorite sound in the pack is DRM Fiddlesticks. So this one is a little bit of an unruly beast. So I want to show you how I generally use it in context. Yeah, so this is the sound. I'm just going to mash the C note on my MIDI controller a bunch of times so you can kind of see how the sound just goes crazy randomly. So it's an endless source of really cool, like spacey, percussion-y, kind of loopy sounds. So yeah, what I generally do is I will just render out a large portion of this, cherry pick the best parts, and maybe then apply a little bit of delays and reverbs and that kind of thing. As you can hear, it like started creating maybe like some water droplet-y kind of sounds, some metallic-y, percussion-y sounds. So what I do there is I just put in a bunch of MIDIs, render it out, and then kind of see where the inspiration takes me. So yeah, let's render this out and see what happens. Okay, so just as a quick example, what I've done here is I've chopped it up a lot more sparsely, spread it out over the entire bar, and then put a little bit of reverb and EQ and that kind of stuff onto it, just to make it sound a little bit nicer in the entire mix. And yeah, this is the sound. Okay, my next favorite sound is SEQ Deep Desert Run. So this is inspired by one of my favorite artists. Of course, I'm sure you guys can guess that, inspired by Astrix. So yeah, I want to show you a couple of cool things about the sound, and yeah, let's play with it and try to fit it into context here. So here you can either turn down SEQ filter and then like actually adjust the filter yourself, or if you're a little bit lazy and you want it to kind of automatically adjust, you can do that. So SEQ filter just applies modulations and stuff to this filter. And here you can actually remove some of the gated pattern if you want to kind of calm down this rhythm a little bit. You can just ungate it a little bit. So check this out. So like what I usually do is I've applied a macro to kind of turn off all of the effects, because like in context like this where it's kind of like this crazy lead sound going on, I kind of want to chop it up and maybe use some parts, maybe not use some parts. So I like to kind of play with it and then remove some of the parts that are maybe a little bit too crazy, if that makes sense. So what I'll do here is I've reduced that SFX macro, and I'm just going to render out this part where I've recorded in this modulation over here. another favorite of mine, SQUELCHES. So this is just a squelch generator and works in a lot of different contexts. You just kind of pitch it to the pitch of the track and let it do its thing. Play with some macros if you need. And yeah, so this is what it sounds like. And then we're going to play with, arranging the whole track. And I'm going to show you at the end of it what it all sounds like together. So yeah, let's listen to the sound. So one thing I wanted to show you guys is the versatility of a lot of these sounds. So there aren't many sounds that are labeled as pads, but that's because a lot of the time when I'm creating these kind of like atmospheres and stuff for my tracks, I'm often using transitions from sounds that are already existing in the track. How I use reverbs and that kind of thing generally creates these different atmospheres. So I want to show you this sound and how I can use this sound to create various different, either like a lead kind of plucky melody or this kind of like evolving pad sound, or use it to transition from one to the other, which is a very powerful effect. So check this out. So this is LD droplets. When you modulate the more verb and sound effects parameter of this, you can create either this like lush pad sound, or you can use it to transition from that plucky melody into a lush pad sound. So this is particularly good on these kind of like RP type melodies, like something like this. You guys can copy this if you want. So yeah, what I've done is this is a 6-note cycle, and it plays over the beat like this. So it slowly transitions into this kind of like atmospheric sound, and the result at the end sounds something like this. So it's very cool to use in these transitions. Say, for example, you want to drop it into a part where you've got this like melodic section and you want to slowly like transition that into a break, or you've got like an intro and you want to slowly transition from like a pad into a slightly more melodic theme, something like this. Let's look at the sound, LD FM stack distortion. So this is really versatile sound as well. It works really nicely at lower octaves, but also creating melodies. It's really, really nice, higher octaves. Especially when you start to tweak the filter, you can create some really nice, like old school melodic vibes. So we could use this in a kind of like simple building kind of context. We could like slowly build that filter. We could also try it out in a more melodic context. Let's check this out. So one of the nice things I've done here is with a lot of these presets is I've added the ability to change this feedback, which is a really helpful thing when you're kind of like transitioning these kind of sounds into a next part. So what I want to do is just read-write automation this feedback up at this last part here. Okay, so here I want to use the exact same preset, but in a slightly different context. I want to use it in a more of a kind of melodic main lead kind of vibe. So we can remove some of this sound effects that's happening here, and we can modulate this filter in a kind of more, in a faster motion. Okay, so the absolute last sound I want to show you guys for today is this SFX big drop. So this is a really good kind of like just intro sound, you know, that like big paddy, more distorted kind of like boom intro sound. So I guess this works well with impacts and that kind of thing, but I want to show you how to turn this into really nice pad as well. So this is the sound just default. And then a nice trick to turn this into like an instant pad is to just turn this decay size on max. We can just fiddle with these shortly and then just max out the mix of this reverb in the effects channel here. And then there's also this macro here, speed. This changes the speeds of the envelopes, so you can get like a slower kind of sound. So we could use this in the intro as the default sound, or we could use it as like a kind of like filler sound as pads and that kind of thing. And for those who are wondering, this riser effect is also a preset in the pack. So yeah, that about sums it up for what I wanted to get through today. Awesome. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Let me know what you think in the comments. A huge thanks to Kilohertz for actually giving me the opportunity to make this pack for you guys. And I actually had a chance to chat to George from Kilohertz, and we chat a little bit about my process behind creating these presets and some other things. So yeah, definitely head on over to their channel and check out that video as well. So yeah, let me know what you guys think, and if you haven't yet, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. See you guys next time. Cheers.